So during the NBA season, I have some traditions, and one of those traditions here at the DeBaugh House is on Monday mornings, usually that's when I actually check the NBA standings. You know, first I walk the dog, second I brew the coffee, third I sip the coffee while I sit down in my home office and take a look at the NBA standings. And of course, several shocking things if you look at the standings today. One of them is out of the Eastern Conference, who had the Detroit Pistons after 10 games leading the entire Eastern Conference. But on today's NBA rundown, we're not actually going to talk about the Pistons. We're actually going to talk about the San Antonio Spurs, the only team, as far as I know, in the National Basketball Association that has an actual alien on their team. We're going to get into just how successful this San Antonio Spurs team has been so far this season, 7-2 through their first 9 games. Currently, as of Monday morning, sitting in second place in the Western Conference. And I know a lot of you out there feel like we might be jumping the gun a little bit on just how good this San Antonio Spurs team can be. But I want to ask you this question. Do you think once the San Antonio Spurs get Dylan Harper back, and assuming everybody is healthy when the playoffs actually start, do you think this San Antonio Spurs team currently has enough talent to actually go all the way to the Western Conference Finals? I want to know what your thoughts are about the San Antonio Spurs. Just how legitimate do you think the Spurs team is after seeing their first 9 games of the season? All right, welcome back to the NBA Rundown. As always, North America, I'm Dave DeBaugh, coming to you from the Silicon Valley. Super quick, new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, and of course, smash that like button. All right, groveling completely out of the way. It was a fantastic weekend of NBA basketball across the country, quite frankly. I still can't get over the neon green courts on Friday night that the Timberwolves had. That being said, I want to talk San Antonio Spurs basketball primarily today. Love to know your thoughts and opinions on this particular team. I want to start by taking a look at the scoring balance, which is exactly what we're looking at from their win against the New Orleans Pelicans the other night. Now, of course, the Pels, as we all know, did not have Zion. Zion's actually being reevaluated this week for that pesky growing injury, which, of course, has kept him out of a wide variety of games over his career to this point. But when you look at this, what screams out to you is balance across the board. Now, of course, the other thing that screams out to you is the fact that De'Aaron Fox is actually on this list. He didn't play in their win against the Houston Rockets. They saved him for his debut against the New Orleans Pelicans. And of course, De'Aaron looked fantastic, 24 points and 3 assists and 3 rebounds in the game for Fox. Of course, Devin Vassell has been playing very good this year. We know just how good Stephon Castle has been playing. He's actually averaging over 18.5 points a game so far this season for the San Antonio Spurs. And maybe one of the best ways to describe Castle is to describe him as a Swiss Army knife, in that he's certainly capable of doing a lot of the dirty little things on the court. A lot of times people talk about players who do dirty little things on the court, and it doesn't actually give the respect that they actually deserve as a basketball player in the NBA. Remember, this is Castle's second year in the league, and there were some thoughts that maybe Dylan Harper was going to take away some of Castle's shots. Of course, Harper is out now, probably for a couple more weeks. And of course, Harper had a fantastic start to the season as well, 14 points a game for Dylan Harper. But when you look at this particular team as a whole, one thing certainly outside of course, the alien and what Wemby can do stands out is just how balanced they can be night in and night out in the NBA. Now, I'm not saying they're the OKC Thunder, and I'm not saying they are the Denver Nuggets at this point. But what I am saying is when we get close to the NBA playoffs this year, and assuming that the San Antonio Spurs stay in the top 4 teams in the Western Conference throughout the season, in other words, they basically keep doing what they're doing, win, if you will, 7 out of 10 games. If they're able to actually do that, then I think the San Antonio Spurs team, at least on paper, should be a worrisome out if you actually end up with the Spurs in the first round. And I think one of the things that a lot of teams need, but the Spurs certainly would need to truly be competitive in a Western Conference playoff run, is an additional big man or two. In other words, they need a little bit more rim protection. Now, I'm not talking about the minutes in which Wemby is actually on the court. I'm talking about the minutes in which Wemby's not on the court. And I'm also talking about the times in which they actually play Wemby not at the 5, but they actually play him at the 4. And for God's sakes, sometimes they play the alien at the 3 position. So I think the Spurs certainly, like a couple other teams in the NBA, the Lakers certainly come to mind, could certainly use some additional rim protection. Now, that doesn't mean they need to go out and get somebody that's going to score 15 points a night. They need another big body to prevent other bodies from showing up inside in the paint. I mean, ultimately, that's really what the San Antonio Spurs team, at least on paper, is missing at this point. And certainly, we're going to need to see the chemistry between De'Aaron Fox and Wemby and Castle and Harper when he comes back and Devin Vassell. But certainly, I think on paper, and not just on paper, but what we've actually seen on the court so far this season has been very impressive. Now, you have to remember Greg Popovich. We know what happened to Pops last year, and we know this is the first year of the new coaching staff officially taking over. And I think they've done a really good job not playing the card of, well, we're improving to improve in the future. A lot of times you hear that about teams in sports. The New England Patriots were a prime example of that at the start of this season. The thought was that we're just going to improve in the future. And of course, the Patriots are having a great start to the season. So much so that they're suddenly contenders in their conference. At the end of the day, there's no reason you have to wait for the future. You need to actually make your future. And I think the San Antonio Spurs coaching staff understands that. There's no time but the present to actually be a good team. And why not actually go for it? Look, I don't know that this Spurs team, quite frankly, is OKC. I don't think they're the Denver Nuggets at this point, but I certainly think they have enough talent to beat just about anybody else in a 7-game series in the Western Conference playoffs if they continue to play the way they're playing. Love to know your thoughts and opinions on the San Antonio Spurs. Are they or are they not legit contenders in the Western Conference this year? All right, finally, if you take a look at NBA power rankings this week, I'm confident that you will see the San Antonio Spurs pop up into everybody's top 10. You might even see the Spurs work their way into people's top 5. Now, I feel like that might be a bit of a stretch at this point. Just wanted to give you some heads up in case you ultimately see that. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning into the NBA Rundown. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.